Welcome back to episode 3 of the EdgooseWakeford Sportscast. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Edgoose, and joined with me today, my brilliant co-host.
Surprise, surprise, Ben Wakeford's back again.
Back again with another episode to talk about the key talking points from last week's NFL games. Some really big talking points which we can get to, and some really fascinating stories which we can discuss today. You excited?
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to be back again. Back again in these lovely facilities, Back to the grind.
And we hope you enjoyed the first 2 episodes. Of course, any feedback is appreciated. But if you would like to listen to some more of me and Ben's content, we host a radio show on Radio Sonar 2 to 3 Thursdays starting next week. But today, we'll start off with one of the biggest games of the season, one of the most interesting games of the season for both sides. Thursday Night Football, Philadelphia Eagles visited Lambeau Field to play the Green Bay Packers.
Go, Pack, go.
How do you think this game went?
Well, I mean, obviously it was brilliant for the Eagles to go into Lambeau Field, that hostile environment, go to the cheese land and pull out a shock dub.
Yeah, the Eagles winning 34-27 after Nigel Bradham got a pick in the red zone with 20 seconds left off Aaron Rodgers. Both teams played really well. It was a really fascinating game. The Eagles did incredibly well to go to Lambeau and get a win in such conditions. I mean, to go to a team that's 3-0, who has one of the best defenses in the league so far this season,
and one of the best quarterbacks of all time,
and pick up the win was really big for them in a division which is going to be really competitive this year, the NFC East.
Very good performance from the Eagles. Also, a good performance from the Packers as well. They might be a bit annoyed with getting to the red zone and not being able to finish off drives with touchdowns.
Well, Carson Wentz, and the Philadelphia Eagles. How real do you think this team is? How legit? Do you think they can go all the way this year?
How legit do I think the Eagles are? Is that what you're asking me, Goose?
That's what I'm asking.
That's what you're asking me. Well, let me tell you, I don't think they're as legit as people think they are. You see the record now. They're standing at 2-2. I mean, fair enough. You're at 500, but the hype surrounding the Eagles ever since they got to the Super Bowl, they've been, ever since Carson Wentz came into the league, it's been hype. This team apparently has one of the best rosters in the NFL. Well, I haven't seen it yet this season, Goose. I haven't seen it.
Well, the Cowboys are currently 3-1 in their division. Eagles are 2-2, as are the Giants. Do you think the Eagles can win the division? Or do you think this is Dallas's?
I think it's Dallas's. I think they've got the team. They've got the sustainable winning mentality and the winning culture. Dak Prescott's a great leader at quarterback. You have the offensive line, which is the best in football, maybe, arguably. You've got Ezekiel Elliott. Personally, I think he's the best running back in football. You've got wide receivers like Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, Michael Gallup, although Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper are slightly injured at the minute. So, I'm thinking Cowboys all the way. What do you think?
I have to disagree. I think, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, this is a team which, over the last 20 years, has been well known for collapsing in both important situations. They very rarely have even made a dent in the playoffs, in my lifetime certainly, and I just think the Philadelphia Eagles are a much better football team all round. If Carson Wentz can stay healthy, this is a team that can really challenge in the NFC. I mean, to go to Lambeau and put up 34 points, as mentioned, is absolutely incredible. And the supporting cast Carson Wentz has around him in Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, Deshaun Jackson, as well as a really solid offensive line and a really talented defense. This is a team which is really well coached.
Let me ask you a question. Out of the 2 head coaches, Cowboys and the Eagles, who would you rather have? Would you rather have Doug Peterson, or would you rather have Jason Garrett, the man that's been there for what seems like ever?
Well, I'm going to take the man who won a Super Bowl not too long ago. I mean, Doug Peterson came into the league and outclassed Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, probably in any American sports. I mean, you just don't do that if you're not the guy. Do I think Doug Peterson will be like Andy Reid and be in the league in 30 years? Probably not. But for right now, I'm taking Doug Peterson. How about you?
I mean, I'm going to have to agree with you there. I can't take Jason Garrett. I don't think he's the guy. Well, I mean, he's been the guy. He's been there for ages. They obviously, Jerry Jones obviously trusts him to lead that franchise. But, the results he's got over the past few seasons, he's obviously won a lot of games, but he hasn't done much with the winning seasons and with those playoff appearances.
I mean, let's just shift gears to this. There's something we really do need to talk about in this game, and that's the Packers were 3-0 going into this fixture. boasted one of the best defenses in the league, yet gave up 34 points. Aaron Rodgers led his team in rushing yards with 46. Although he did have 422 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, that offense was not moving as well as it should, and the whole team faltered in the red zone. Do we think the Packers can be a serious contender this year?
I do, yeah. I don't think their team is normally that one-sided. I think it's normally more balanced. The offense, in terms of the offense, like they like to run the ball a lot with their good quality running backs like Aaron Jones. So they like to run the ball, which sets up the deep throws that Aaron Rodgers normally unloads. So I think that they were down early and they needed to come back in the game, especially later on. That's why Aaron threw it so many times. But I think normally they would be more balanced than they were.
Well, you mentioned they really do boast usually a good run game, and that sets up Aaron Rodgers to make throws that he can make, which are really deep. But like we mentioned, the Philadelphia defense really shut down the run game early on and got the Packers behind. And when the Packers are that one-dimensional, when any football team's that one-dimensional, they're really easy to sort of predict.
Yeah, you said it there yourself. When any team is just throwing the ball, it's easier to play against than when it's a run or a pass. So run and passing, I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's not just the Packers' problem. It's a problem that happens in lots of football games.
But this is the thing. The Packers need that balance and need to be in games early on so they can have an equal run and pass game. And against good teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, can the Packers do that? Or is this a sign of things to come? Are Packers going to really struggle against the top teams?
Are you asking me whether Aaron Rodgers can still pick apart those defenses?
I think we know Aaron Rodgers can pick apart defenses, but when there's no run game, it's going to be incredibly hard for the Packers to pick up wins this season.
Yeah, true. I think I agree. I completely agree. I don't think that's a issue that's really needed to argue, but I think that this probably just is a one-off because I think they've played exceptionally well all season so far.
So we mentioned the Cowboys and just talked about the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll stay in the NFC East where Washington visited the New York Giants, with the Giants winning 24-3 at home. The big sort of news in this game was, well, first of all, how big the Giants won this game, but the big sort of story was the Washington Redskins throwing in rookie Dwayne Haskins into the fire, so to speak. Do we think this was the right call from the Redskins and Jay Gruden?
I think it's completely. Well, it's just terrible for the young quarterback who is a young man still. He only played 1 year at Ohio State, so just think about that. He only played 12, 13 games at college. That's all he's played in apart from high school as well, but that doesn't really count. But playing only 12 games and then being thrown in mid-game against a team you're already down against, with a quarterback who is just playing unbelievably well in only his second game. But yeah, I think it was if it was due to the injury that Case Keenum picked up, then there's not much you can do about that. You've got to go to your backup. But if it was just purely on the Case Keenum's performance, which I think he would have been taken out anyway because he was playing terribly, and then they obviously put Dwayne in and he threw 3 interceptions. It was just a bad time to put him in. What do you think?
I mean, he had a pretty tragic start, Dwayne Haskins, to his NFL career. Threw 3 picks and only had 170 yards throwing. But there's stories coming out that he didn't train with the starters all week. That to me is a bit peculiar because everybody knows Case Keenum probably isn't the long-term option in Washington, at least till Dwayne's ready. I mean, everyone knew sort of Case could have been moved to the bench any time. And there's been a lot of talk midweek about Jay Gruden getting sacked potentially soon because Washington hasn't been competitive for a while.
Terrible.
I know to score 3 points isn't great, but I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing to put Dwayne Haskins in. I know he's still a raw prospect, as you mentioned, very limited college games, but the Redskins roster's only going to go so far, and I think to get early experience in for Dwayne's going to be a good thing. You could always sit him like the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. However, I think the situation is just a lot different.
It is completely different, isn't it? Yeah. Having someone like Case Keenum compared to Alex Smith is just... I mean, they would have Alex Smith as the starter, wouldn't they? So, but yeah, it was a difficult situation for him to thrown into.
I see the situation as having Case Keenum in your team the ceiling's so limited, and the potential ceiling that Dwayne Haskins could push up to, if he, comes into the league and pops, it's worth throwing him in. And I don't think he'll be affected by this game, there's no doubt he'll have rough games coming up in the season. He's still raw as a prospect, but give it time. I think Dwayne Haskins will stay in the league, and I still think he should be given the starting job next week.
You hope it doesn't affect him too much, like confidence-wise, because he's a confident guy coming out of college as well. I hope it doesn't affect his overall season or career too much. And I hope he moves on quickly. And obviously, as you said, if he gets to start next week, I hope he can improve on his performance. But it's going to be hard with that shocking Redskins team. That offensive line was just dreadful. Yeah, I can only see it going one way, really. But we wish him the best.
And on the other side of the spectrum, Daniel Jones had a really solid game. Second game, as you mentioned, he went 23 for 31 passing with 226 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. He looked good, didn't he?
Yeah, he did look. He looked good again. He threw those 2 picks, but that's what's going to happen with first year quarterbacks. But the difference is between Haskins and someone like Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones started 3 years in college. He started 3 years in college compared to Dwayne Haskins only one year. He's older than Dwayne Haskins. He's got more maturity. He's obviously played more, so he knows he knows his game more than Dwayne Haskins does. And I think obviously after last week, his confidence is sky high. He's going to be out of this world, especially winning 2 games. The atmosphere around the Giants organization must be completely different to what it is like around the Redskins organization. So I think, he's done really well, and the only way is up.
Could you make the argument, though, that perhaps Daniel Jones was more of a raw prospect coming into the NFL because of the college he played at and the differences in program from Ohio State and Duke?
I think you can look at that. You can look at that, and you can look at the stats that he had as well, like the completion percentage, the amount of interceptions he threw. You can look at it. You can look down on it, but these people select these guys with a thought in mind. They say this. They look at him and they think, this is my guy. This is the one I want. And they obviously thought that with Daniel Jones, and it's paid off so far.
I mean, the Giants obviously passed on Dwayne Haskins to select Daniel Jones with the 6th pick in this year's draft. So they obviously liked what they saw in Daniel a lot more than Dwayne.
Yeah, apparently the Redskins were going to take him at 15 as well. They were going to take Jones at 15. So the Giants wanted to wait until their next pick, which was at 27, I think it was. But, they heard that Washington wanted him as well, and they couldn't let him go to a division rival, so they snapped him with that 6th pick.
We'll shift gears to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who visited the West Coast LA Rams. The Buccaneers pulled off one of the biggest shocks of the season. When you sort of try to predict the schedule, it was really, really surprising. The Buccaneers won 55-40 in an absolute shootout. Buccaneers scored the most points in their franchise history, and it's a big, big upset. Jameis Winston, again, showed flashes of really, really solid quarterback play. Is he consistent enough to earn that big contract? You
know what, Dan? It's so frustrating watching this guy play, because he plays out of his skin 1 week, and the next week he'll be absolutely terrible. He'll throw so many interceptions, and it's just frustrating as hell. But yeah, I think his consistency is an issue. I think that's something that people have to be talking about. But, it was a sensational performance from me yesterday.
I mean, he had 385 passing yards with 4 touchdowns to 1 pick as the Buccaneers go to 2-2. 2 touchdown grabs by Godwin. He had 12 total catches, so he's a really good weapon alongside Mike Evans.
Yeah, but, Mike Evans did get injured during that game, so he had to step up, and he did, so credit to him.
Jameis Winston's now won 2 away games at Carolina and LA. That, to me, is really unbelievable. These are really tough places to go with really good teams. And I know Carolina was a bit off that day. It was a Thursday night football game in the pouring rain. Cam wasn't quite himself. He was injured. But they still made a statement that day, and they've made an absolute statement today. Is this a problem for the LA Rams, though? Because the Buccaneers are considered more of the middle, sort of weaker tier teams in the league, and they've just been bested by them. Sean McVay's been outcoached.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the game plan for the Rams, I don't think it was to go in and throw the ball 68 times like Goff had to do. I think they obviously wanted to be more reliant on Todd Gurley out of the backfield, running him more, but they were down early again. So it's coming back to similar with the Packers game. They had to throw the ball lots. That caused turnovers, and the Bucs just kind of went on a rampage and just scored as many points as they wanted.
I mean, to have a real talented superstar running back like Todd Gurley run only 5 times really shows you that the Rams' offense really became one-dimensional because it became a shootout. Goff threw 68 times, as you mentioned, and had 517 yards, which on any other day will get you the win 9 times out of 10. But because this game just went back and forth and was just solely it was a real passing. If you like passing in the NFL, this was the game for you. Shaquille Barrett got another sack. We mentioned him last week.
One of your players of the week, wasn't he?
One of my players of the week. We'll move on to another big divisional game. The Cleveland Browns visited the Baltimore Ravens, with the Browns coming out winners 40-25. Both sides are now 2-2 in that division. And
Browns are obviously ahead on the tiebreak.
Yes, and look, do we think the Browns are living up to expectations now? They're finally getting wins. They're moving it along. Do we think they could potentially make a big splash? Look, both teams are now 2-2. It's a division which is there for the taking. Both teams are going to go right to the wire, I can feel, in terms of making the playoffs and potentially making the wild card. Are the Browns now living up to expectations? They're starting to get wins in the win column.
You know what, Goose? I completely believe in these Cleveland Browns. I have all season. I did in the off-season as well. I think they're the guys. There's so many dogs on that team. You talk about Baker Mayfield. Odell, even though Odell had the least amount of catches and yards in his career in this game, he's still a weapon. Jarvis Landry, obviously, the guy. They're all just... there's such a good defense as well. That front four is just unbelievable. It's just... they're such a good side, and it's good to see them finally getting it together against a Ravens team which has been one of the best in the league so far, and away in Baltimore. That's an unbelievable victory. So yeah, I do think they are living up to the hype.
I mean, this looks like a really, really good Browns side now. They look a lot better. They're getting to the ball quicker, numbers to the ball on defense.
They're running good plays on offense.
They're running good plays. Freddie Kitchens is figuring it out.
Not stupid plays.
As you mentioned, Jarvis Landry had a great game. 8 catches, 167 yards, and he's, you could say, a lot more dependable than someone like Odell Beckham Jr., who's going to have fist fights with cornerbacks every game. Baker, 342 yards with 66% completion. But we have to mention Nick Chubb as well. The run game was really working for the Cleveland Browns, and that's something they have to depend on more. They have all these flashy receivers. They made big plays for them in the offseason. As you mentioned, Odell Beckham Jr. But once they get that run game going and they're a real ground and pound team, man, do they look good. Nick Chubb, 165 yards, 3 touchdowns off 20 carries. They could really do something special this year if they keep figuring it out like they have this game.
Let me tell you, Nick Chubb is the man. He is the man. He was so good at Georgia. Coming into that last season as a rookie, he was incredible once again. Now he's just showing that they don't have to throw the ball every play, even though they do have receivers like Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham. They can just give him the ball and he runs for 80 yards and a touchdown. It's unbelievable.
I mean, in the games we saw before, the Browns' problem was they were passing a lot more than they were running, and everybody knows the Browns' weakness is their offensive line, and quarterback Baker Mayfield has been running for his life in some sorts. But once they figured out this run game, they look like a much different side with a much healthier approach to trying to win in a massive divisional game at a big rival.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about divisional away games, especially in that AFC North, you're thinking running game and you're thinking a solid defense, and that's exactly what the Browns turned up with yesterday. Even though they did concede 25 points, the start of that game, their defense was dominant. You're talking Miles Jack, we're talking Ogunjobi, Richardson, we're talking Vernon, that front four, and then the back end of it as well with Denzel Ward. It's just an incredible defense.
And Myles Garrett as well. And on the other side of this game, the Baltimore Ravens, who have started the season well, they were 2-1 going into the game, now 2-2 alongside the Cleveland Browns. They only put up 25 points at home. Do we think perhaps the Ravens... There's a lot of hype surrounding Ravens coming into this game. Do we think perhaps they're overhyped, or do you think they're still going to really make noise in the AFC?
I mean, they came into the game as the highest scoring team in the league, and admittedly you're only 3 games in, but that's still got to mean something. Lamar Jackson's one of the most dynamic quarterbacks potentially the game's ever seen. throwing has improved dramatically since last season, and his running is always a threat. So maybe they were slightly overhyped at the start of the season, just in terms of the teams they played. Obviously, they played Miami week 1 and they absolutely destroyed them, but we all know Miami are a terrible team, which we've discussed before. But I do think that the Ravens were maybe slightly overhyped. Do you think that the Ravens were overhyped coming into this game?
I don't. I really do think this is a good football team. Harbaugh as coach he's a phenomenal coach. It's a well-run coaching staff in a team that is really professional. There's very little, problems you hear from the Baltimore Ravens players. Look, Lamar Jackson's young, and everybody knows he's not the purest thrower. He's, as you mentioned, he's really two-dimensional. He's a runner, and he can throw. And the throwing has got a lot better this season. But we saw that in games like the Miami Dolphins game, where defenses aren't as good. So maybe there was a bit of a illusion there that he was a bit better at throwing the football than he actually is, but he's still really talented.
I mean, that's not denied that he's talented.
But they do need to win these big home games, especially against divisional teams, because these are the games that set you apart from the other teams in your division, and teams like Cleveland, who are also in a similar position that need to make a push to win the division. I think they'll easily make the playoffs, Baltimore, whether it's winning the division or in a wildcard spot. But it'll be very close with Cleveland, and it'll go all the way.
Yeah, I think maybe they'll both make the playoffs. Maybe the Browns will be a bit stronger than the Ravens are going into the latter weeks of the season. But the Ravens are obviously a good team as well. I think Sunday might have been a little outlier for their defense, because normally their defense is quite strong, but then conceding 40 points is not good enough really. It's not going to cut it, especially at home. The fans have got to be very frustrated.
When the Super Bowl comes around, who could you see more likely be
out of these
one
two
of
teams?
The two teams, Cleveland or Baltimore?
I've got to go Cleveland. I've got to go Cleveland.
I disagree. I go Baltimore. I just like the whole makeup of the team. I really do. I think when the teams next meet in Cleveland, I think Baltimore could beat them. We'll move up to the northeast, where New England travelled to the Buffalo Bills, where the Patriots won 16-10. We got to talk about Josh Allen's injury. That was a brutal hit.
Yeah, you never like to see a bloke get a concussion like that. It was pretty savage on his part. That's what you got to expect in these divisional matchups. You got to expect hard hits, but you don't want to see a guy go down like that. And he did look like he got knocked out clean.
I mean, I rate Josh Allen the highest ranking quarterback out of that class from last year. I think he's better than Baker Mayfield. I think he's better than Lamar Jackson at the moment. Lamar Jackson, though, does look like he has a lot of potential. I just think that arm talent that Josh Allen has, he's got an absolute gun.
Yeah, he can throw bombs, man.
And to start the season 3-0, look, losing to New England's nothing to be ashamed of. It really isn't. But Josh Allen, hopefully he can return to the field soon, and hopefully Buffalo can keep playing well, because they've played some really nice football recently.
Yeah, obviously coming to this game, they're undefeated. So, and he's definitely been the leader for that team. So hopefully he can come back. Hopefully it's just a week thing. Hopefully he's back for Sunday. So yeah, hopefully he can get back into the good form he was in, because he is obviously one of the attractions of the sport is that big arm of his, and you love to see him uncork it. So yeah.
Also on the Buffalo Bills, Frank Gore had 17 carries and 109 yards. He actually holds the NFL record for most seasons with 1,200 or more yards from scrimmage. Do we think Frank Gore is a Hall of Famer?
I mean, you've got to give it to the man. He's an old man now. Old man Gore running on old legs. But he's still got it. I don't know how he does it. He's still got it. I think he's got to be a Hall of Famer in my opinion. Just the stats that he's put up. Later this year he's gonna pass up to third in the all-time rushers. So yeah, he's got to be a Hall of Famer for me.
I think this is the first time we've ever agreed properly. I think it'd be so disrespectful to leave a talent like him out of the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's done it for so long as well. So fair play to him. Even at this old age, he's still putting up numbers which are blowing us away. I mean, 109 yards against New England's defense is pretty darn incredible.
That is a good, solid effort from a guy who is just one of the legends of the game, and he's a bit of a journeyman. He's played on lots of different teams, but on those teams he's just been sensational.
We'll talk about Tom Brady for a bit as well. He really, really struggled in this game. We haven't seen Tom struggle like this for a while.
He did struggle. I don't know whether that was just because is his age coming into factor, finally? Father Time's getting into him? Or, whether that's because of the Bills' defense, which is obviously a pretty good defense. And at home, he's obviously, Tom Brady was away from home. So maybe these factors kind of led up to this poor performance.
Yeah, he had only 150 yards passing, and threw a pick, which is very rare for Tom Brady. But I wouldn't look too much into it. I mean, the Patriots will still win this division easily,
comfortably,
and likely the AFC. Let's be honest. They go to Washington, host the Giants, and then go to the Jets in the next 3 weeks. So that's three guaranteed wins for a team.
You'd think if they lost any of them, that would be a shock.
And by that point, they're probably out of reach from any other team in the AFC East, unless Buffalo picks up a few wins as well. Well, next we'll talk about the Minnesota Vikings visiting the Chicago Bears. The Bears won 16-6 at home. I think the first real major talking point we have to talk about is Kirk Cousins. There's a lot of talk about him on social media after that result. He had a really poor game. Do you think he can still be the man, and do you think that contract was a mistake?
I don't think he didn't play awfully, but his vision down the field, he doesn't seem to be like a guy that can throw the ball deep well at all. And that's something that you need with these receivers that are on the team. We're talking Stephon Diggs. We're talking someone like Adam Thielen as well. He had 2 catches for 6 yards. That's just not something you want from a guy who is a Pro Bowler.
I mean, a talent like Adam Thielen, you can't get him the ball only twice.
It's just not good enough.
That's just not going to lead to a good result. And he's really the main focal point of your offense.
And you could tell he's frustrated on the sideline as well, which is obviously not good. When you're frustrated visibly on the sideline, it's not good. It's not a good sign for the team. It's not a good show for the quarterback. So I'd say he was definitely not worth that contract that he got. He showed one or two good years in Washington. He led them to a few wins. But that amount of money is ridiculous for a guy who's scored 6 points in a game, in a divisional game.
This is probably the reason why Washington chose to keep franchise tagging him and not give him a long-term deal, because they knew, this could happen. I mean, he is a limited quarterback. I still think he's probably a top 20 quarterback in the league on his day. But that contract does not sort of match up to the performances he's been given for a really talented Vikings team who haven't started as well as they should under Kirk Cousins. Yeah,
they're back to 500 now in the season. They're going to be struggling to catch up with the Bears and the Packers in the division.
I mean, to go to the Chicago Bears, that's a tough place with a really good defense. I mean, Roquan Smith was out in that game, but still, that defense is really, really solid. We'll talk about the Chicago Bears. Mitch Trubisky, probably the most limited quarterback in the league, in my opinion. He got injured in this game. What do you think this means for the next few weeks for the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, he injured his shoulder, I think. He's out indefinitely, so it's going to be Chase Daniel's team for the foreseeable future. And I think Chase Daniel looked good. He looked good on Sunday night. He looks like he led the offense well. He got a few fourth down conversions. And yeah, he did something that Trubisky, maybe some of the stuff Trubisky can't do. Not look down his first read for the whole time.
I think Chase Daniel will be absolutely fine with a head coach like Matt Nagy.
And when you're thinking about Chase Daniel, you think he is one of the most capable backups in the league.
In recent weeks, we've seen a lot of backup quarterbacks coming into games, and they've really played well. So it makes you think a lot of these teams might not be in such a bad situation when their quarterback gets injured. Perhaps teams are just finding better backup quarterbacks now, and then they might not be as sort of dependable on the key starters. I mean, the Panthers have been a revelation without Cam Newton.
Yeah, same with the Jags and Gardner Minshew. I mean, these guys, they obviously just want to play and they want to prove themselves when they get out there, and these guys are doing that.
I mean, obviously you have to have that level of talent to make an NFL roster, so they're always going to contribute something. But Chase Daniel has a chance to really knock Mitch Trubisky off his sort of his starting place mantle. Yeah,
I don't think he's the most secure quarterback in the league in terms of his starting place. So definitely, if Chase Daniel comes in, performs well, and with that defense at his back, I don't know why he can't win all the games that Trubisky's out for. It
is also a tough division with a team like the Detroit Lions, who narrowly lost to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers. But if Chase Daniel and the Bears can sort of pick up some momentum, they could easily be a wildcard team come the end of the season.
Yeah, I disagree with you there. I think they're more likely to win the division than the Packers. Is that controversial for you, Goose? You look like you want to say something about that.
I'm finding this very, very hard to, keep this PG here because this is so disrespectful to Aaron Rodgers. Yes, the Packers lost. Yes, the Packers, defense got a bit exposed. But my goodness, this team, for the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career, he has a really stacked, defense, probably since they won the Super Bowl. And even that defense wasn't that amazing. I just cannot see Chase Daniel and Mitch Trubisky winning a division.
Think about Khalil Mack. That man strips the ball. He sees the ball. He gets it. And he's going to get around anyone.
You can't deny the pressure that Chicago can put on opposing teams' quarterbacks. But Aaron Rodgers is just a bad, bad man. And I think he's going to do bad, bad things this season.
I agree. He is a bad man. I agree. But we're talking Khalil Mack. He is the baddest of men.
We'll shift gears to the Cincinnati Bengals, who visited the Steel City, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and lost 27-3. Steelers picking up a big divisional win. We've got to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals putting up 3 points. They haven't had the start of the season which they hoped for.
Why do you think they're so bad? I want a list of 3 reasons why I think they're so bad.
I'll give you a list of 3 reasons as to why the Cincinnati Bengals are very bad. Number 1, Andy Dalton. Number 2, Andy Dalton. And number 3, Andy Dalton. Look, this guy has 0 playoff wins in his career. And he has the supporting cast to win games. Tyler Boyd, AJ Green, Joe Mixon, and Tyler Eifert.
John Ross as well.
John Ross. I mean, he
Quickest
hasn't quite been the player we hoped he would be.
He's
coming
been
out
pretty
of.
good this year.
But he had 1 reception in his rookie year.
Yeah.
But now he's started to pick up. He can be a starter in the league.
He's got pace as well.
He has a supporting cast, yet he's put up 3 points against a weak Pittsburgh Steelers team, who this season haven't started how well they should have after Ben Roethlisberger's injury. I think it's time to say goodbye to Andy Dalton. I really do, in the upcoming draft. And by the looks of it, Bengals will have a top 7 pick.
Top 5 pick.
Top 5 picks around that era.
I'm thinking number 1, mate.
And they won't be worse than Miami. But you look at some of the quarterbacks coming into the league next year: Justin Herbert, Tua. I mean,
Tua Tagovailoa. You got to take Justin Herbert, man. Give up on the redhead, the red gunslinger, rocket. Or whatever they call him.
Give up on the red rocket.
Get rid of it.
AJ Green deserves better than this.
Get Justin Herbert. I'm telling you. 6'6", 220, he slings it.
It's hard to watch such a talented team be held back for so long by Andy Dalton.
It doesn't help AJ. You talk about AJ Green, but he's been injured a lot.
Yeah, definitely. But they still have supporting cast like Tyler Boyd and John Ross and Tyler Eifert, and not a horrible offensive line.
Their offensive line last night was bad.
Their first pick in this year's draft was an offensive lineman.
Yeah, but
Jonah Williams. Yeah,
but he's injured.
So they obviously have a plan to build around Andy Dalton, which I think is criminal to an extent. And then on the other side, the Steelers put up 27 points. How do you think they'll fare this season?
I mean, I don't see them doing much damage going on to later on in the season. Looking at the playoffs, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Not in that AFC North. Mason Rudolph's come in. He's performed okay. He's not done badly at all. I think he's probably a guy that can back up Ben for a few more years and then come in and start. I don't see why he can't. He's a big guy like Ben is. He's a big guy. He's quite mobile, and he throws the ball well downfield.
I completely agree. Juju Smith-Schuster plays incredibly well. James Conner, and a good offensive line. So I don't see why Mason Rudolph can't succeed the next couple of weeks for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, but do you agree with me that the playoffs are a bit of a stretch for them?
I don't think the wild card's out of reach. I don't think they'll win the division. Baltimore and Cleveland are a lot better.
Can you hear yourself right now? Can you hear what you're saying?
I'm going to say it now. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers finish the season 9-7.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Coach Mike Tomlin's really, really, really good. They picked up Minkah Fitzpatrick on an already good defense. And like I said, Juju Smith-Schuster is a really class receiver. So don't be surprised if the Steelers start picking up momentum.
Okay, now moving on. The Minshew magic strikes again in that high altitude stuff. We're talking Jags going into Denver and beating the Denver Broncos 26-24. What do the Broncos do now? Starting off 0-4 with Joe Flacco as their quarterback. What do they do?
It's a really peculiar situation up in the mountains, and I think the altitude's getting to their head, to be honest.
It's got to be getting to that coach's head.
How can you not give Drew Lock a start yet?
I can't give him a chance. Give him a chance at least.
You know what you're getting with Joe Flacco, and it's going to be a 3-13 season.
It's boring.
It's boring. There's no excitement in that team.
No one wants to see that.
I mean, this is a man who's getting quite old now and hasn't really done anything since he did win the Super Bowl. But that was on a really stacked Ravens team with the likes of Ed Reed and Ray
beasts.
Lewis. So
yeah, there's a lot of beasts.
There was a reason why they won that Super Bowl, and that was the defense. But I mean, this is one of the weakest rosters in the league. Weakest sort of setups in the league, and I can see the Broncos having a top 3 pick this year, and I think they need a quarterback.
I mean, at least they got their first sack this week. That's got to be a positive.
I mean, but then at the same time, they lose Bradley Chubb out for the season, who's probably their best young talent on the team.
It's a rough one. It's not good to be Denver.
It's not good to be Denver.
They've been bad for a few years now, and something's got to change.
And then obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars got a big win. The Broncos are a bad team, but it's not easy to go up into basically a complete different environment up in the mountains.
No, it's not. I mean, obviously Minshew's sprinkled a bit of magic all over that Jags team once again.
There's something special going on with this guy, man.
That mustache, I'm telling you. It's that warm-up he does in the locker room. Yeah, no, it's good though. It's good, seeing a young guy come into the league. No one thought he could do this. When Nick Foles got injured, they're going to lose all their games now that Nick Foles is injured. But no, it's completely different.
Well, they committed big money to Nick Foles. I mean, there was a lot of teams sort of interested in him in the off-season after his stint in Philadelphia winning the Super Bowl. Jacksonville picked him up for a big contract, and then he gets injured. Who do they turn to? An unknown rookie quarterback? I mean, he looks so comfortable.
It's a great story, isn't it?
It's a great story, and it's a fascinating story because he's such a character.
He is a character.
Well, that was our roundup of some of the biggest and fascinating games in the NFL in the last week. We like talking about the sort of big stories there, and it's something we'll aim to do every week.
Yeah, we just like to have a little personal little conversation about what's happened, how fun it is.
It's a nice sort of roundup of the week's sort of events, and we get to talk about good players like Gardner Minshew,
the future Hall of Famer,
the future Hall of Fame quarterback. But after all that, it's now time for Ben's Burning 5.
Yeah, back again. Last week, I got 3 out of 5, which I'm pretty happy with. That's pretty decent. That's pretty good, isn't it, Goose?
Oh, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant start.
Yeah, thank you. But this week, I'm going for Cardinals. Started off without any wins, but I'm going for them to get the win at Cincinnati. 2 winless teams, but I'm seeing the Cardinals getting that one. And the Browns, they're going to San Francisco to play the 49ers. And I think they're going to continue that win streak. So I'm going to go with the Browns to beat the 49ers. Then I'm going for Magic Gardner Minshew. They're going up against a good Panthers defense, but I'm taking Gardner on this one. Then the Giants at home against the Vikings. I'm taking the Giants. I think that Daniel Jones, he's also sprinkling a lot of magic all over the Big Apple. So I'm taking the Giants on that one. And then my last one, the last pick, I'm taking the Ravens at the Steelers. And you might say, but the Steelers are 1-3. And I'll tell you, it's not hard to go into Pittsburgh and win. So I'm taking the Ravens to bounce back and get the victory there. That's my burning 5 for the week.
I can't believe you disrespect the Carolina Panthers like that. You really think Gardner Minshew's going to beat them at Carolina?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's definitely bold. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, and I don't like it, but I have to accept it.
Controversy.
You absolutely love it.
But now it's time for Goose's top performers of the week.
Yeah, there was a lot of big performances in the week this past weekend, and I'm going to pick out number 1 as my 5th best performer of the week, cornerback Janoris Jenkins, the Jackrabbit from the New York Giants. He had 2 interceptions as the Giants won a massive, gargantuan divisional game against the Washington Redskins and rookie Dwayne Haskins. Number 4, I'm going for running back Leonard Fournette from the Jacksonville Jaguars. We know Denver aren't a very good team, but he managed to pick up 225 yards against them as they won up in the high altitudes. He didn't get a touchdown in that game, but the run game was key in ensuring that the Jaguars win that.
Wait, hold on.
Game.
You're putting respect on Leonard Fournette's name now after last week.
He proved me wrong. He must have listened to our sportscast. Number 3, I'm going in the same game, Von Miller. This one's mainly, a bit of a nostalgic pick.
Yeah, a sentimental
career
one,
sack he got in that game after 2 sacks. And with no Bradley Chubb for a year, he'll be so key for that Denver Broncos team if they do want to win games. And he really piled up the pressure on Gardner Minshew. I'm going with Nick Chubb for the next pick. Look, in the last few weeks, Cleveland struggled with its passing game. Baker Mayfield hasn't quite been the revelation we thought he would, especially after how well he played last year. But Nick Chubb had 175 yards and had 3 touchdowns as the Browns got the win against Baltimore. If Cleveland can make running game their identity, I think Nick Chubb's going to have a really, really good year. And number 1, I'm going to go with Jameis Winston. 385 yards and 4 touchdowns against a really, really good, well, typically a really, really good LA Rams defense. He proved to everyone that there is certainly talent in Tampa.
Yeah, cheers for that, Goose. That was some good picks there. Some good picks for. It's hard to choose 5 guys out of the league this year this week that have played out of their skin. So well done.
Well, there's easily 20 guys who could have made that list. I just picked the guys
agree.
Who I think made the biggest impact for their teams and ultimately.
And you made hard, interesting picks. You could just pick 5 quarterbacks, 5 guys who you could argue make the most impact on the game, but you pick these guys that perform well.
Well, this is the thing. Patrick Mahomes leading a comeback against the Detroit Lions. He could have easily made the list, but can't have him in there every week. It'd be a bit unfair to the other NFL players. And obviously, I picked Jameis Winston as my number 1 top performer of the week. He had 4 touchdowns. We'll leave this episode with the final question for you, Ben. Who do you think's going to have the most touchdowns as a quarterback this season in the NFL?
Oh, it's a tricky one. Normally, I would go with my guy Drew Brees, but obviously he's injured and he's going to be injured for at least half the season. So I'm just going to go with the guy who got the most touchdowns last year, and I'm going to go Patty Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs. The guy's got a bazooka for an arm, and he's got the receivers to match. So I think he's going to throw the most touchdowns.
It really is hard to disagree with that, and I think anyone who knows the NFL would make that their pick. But because we don't like to do things normally around here, I'm going to pick somebody else. My first instinct originally was Jared Goff. However, that loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't know if he can keep up a high touchdown scoring rate. I think anyone who knows the NFL would have made that pick. Patrick Mahomes is absolutely incredible and will probably surpass 50 touchdowns again. But because here on the EdgooseWakeford Sportscast we like to make things a bit different, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson up in the northwest for Seattle. I think he's got a really good surrounding core this year, and he's one of the best scrambling quarterbacks I've ever seen. So I'm going to make my pick as Russell Wilson.
That's a good pick. Now we want to know, who would you guys pick? You guys listening, I reckon just leave a comment. We don't get many comments on videos, so just leave a comment. Who do you think is going to throw the most touchdowns in the league?
Let's get some interaction going now.
Let's get that interaction.
But anyway, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the EdgooseWakeford Sportscast. We've wrapped up some of the big games in the NFL in the past weekend.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening once again. Yeah, it's really fun doing these, and yeah, just keep supporting if you can.
Well, we hope to see you soon. If you are interested in listening to us a bit more, we'll be on Radio Sonar every Thursday 2 to 3 starting next week. But this has been the EdgooseWakeford Sportscast. I'm Daniel Edgoose.
I'm Ben Wakeford. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.